Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chevam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayudirate Nashtaprayashu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today we'll be reading translations only from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Liberation, Chapter 2, The Dynasties of the Sons of Manu, verses 1 through 15. Text number 1. Shukdev Goswami said thereafter, within his son, Sudhiyumna had thus gone to the forest to accept the order of Varnasprat Vivashvata Manu. Sridharadev, being desirous of getting more sons, performed severe austerity on the bank of the Yamuna for 100 years. Text 2. Then, because of his desire for sons, the Manu, known as Shraddhaya Deva, worshipped the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, the Lord of the demigods. Thus he got 10 sons exactly like himself, among them all Ikshaku was the eldest. Text 3. Among these sons, Prasarda, following the order of his spiritual master, was engaged as the protector of cows. He would stand all night with a sword to give the cows protection. Text 4. Once at night, when it was raining, a tiger entered the land of the cowherd. A cowshed. Upon seeing the tiger, all the cows who were lying down got up in fear and scattered here and there on the land. Text 5 and 6. When the very strong tiger seized the cow screamed in distress and fear, and Parasada, hearing the screaming, immediately followed the sound. He took up his sword, but because the stars were covered by clouds, he mistook the cow for the tiger and mistakenly cut off the cow's head with great force. Text 7. Because the tiger's ear had been cut off by the edge of the sword, the tiger was very afraid, and it fled from that place while bleeding. Um, I lost my placement. Fled from that place while bleeding on the street. Text 8. In the morning, when Parashrada, who was quite able to subdue his enemy, saw that he had killed the cow, although at night he thought he had killed the tiger, he was very unhappy. Text 9. Although Prasadra had committed the sin unknowingly, his family priest, Vashishta, cursed him, saying, in your next life you shall be not able to become a Kshatriya. Instead, you shall take birth as a Shudra because of killing the cow. Text 10. When the hero Parashadhar was thus cursed by his spiritual master, he accepted the curse with folded hands. Then, having controlled his senses, he took the vow of brahmacharya, which is approved by all great sages. Text 11 and 13. Thereafter, Parashadhar gained relief from all responsibilities, became peaceful in mind, and established control over all his senses, being unaffected by material conditions, being pleased with whatever and was available by the grace of the Lord to maintain body and soul together, and being equal toward everyone, he gave full attention to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudev, who is the transcendental super soul free from material contamination. The Thus, Prarasadhar, fully satisfied in pure knowledge, always keeps his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, achieved pure devotion, devotional service to the Lord, and began traveling all over the world without affection for material activities, as if he were deaf, dumb, and blind. Text 14. When this attitude, Prasardhar became a giant, great saint, and when he entered the forest and saw a blazing forest fire, he took this opportunity to burn his body in the fire. Thus he achieved the transcendental spiritual world. Text 15. The last text being read here, being reluctant to accept material enjoyment, Manu's youngest son, whose name was Kavi, gave up the kingdom before attaining full youth. Accompanied by his friends, he went to the forest, always thinking of the self-effulgent Supreme Personality of Godhead within the core of his heart. Thus he attained the perfection. Over to you, Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Please take over the call, Prabhuji. Please accept our humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, see all the my computer, thank you for today's classes, and to and the opportunities in the 1.2. Thank you. Please accept my humble obeisances to the focus and to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. So today, we will discuss our Bhagavatam, which is an 8th canto. We'll start with the brief prayers to our Guru Governor. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishnapreshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminite Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshadarine. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. अत्र सर्गो विसर्गश्च स्थानं पोषणमूर्तयः मन्वन्तरीशान् कथा निरोधो मुक्तिराश्रयः. Brahmaji said this was in one of the second or third cantos while he was explaining Narada. And this Srimad Bhagavatam covering all these 10 topics, and starting with primary creation, secondary creation. We've heard even the dissolution, partial fermentation of water when Brahmaji went to sleep from yesterday's class. So today, yesterday itself, actually, we started, in our previous two sessions, we heard from 9th canto. So 9th canto primarily talks about the topic for the mukti. That means, Srila Prabhupada defines mukti means giving up one's position in 7th canto, 7th chapter, 28th verse, purport. Srila Prabhupada defines what is mukti. Mukti means giving up one's position in ignorance or illusion, not by self-endeavor, but with the help of a devotee, with the agency of Krishna in this world. Otherwise, one cannot come out. So someone who needs to be rescued, someone who is just like how someone who is deep into the ocean, someone needs to come and rescue him. Otherwise, he himself cannot rescue himself. Similarly, mukti means giving up one's position in ignorance or illusion by which one thinks in a way contrary to his constitutional position. So returning to one's constitutional position is called a mukti. And the process by which one achieves that is called yoga. That is how Srila Prabhupada defines yoga also. The process by which one achieves the mukti is called yoga. And thus the yoga is, and what is this yoga? It has many names like Bhakti Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, like that Krishna keeps on defining it throughout the Bhagavad Gita. And he describes that this Bhakti Yoga is above Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Sankhya Yoga. And indeed, yoga is the ultimate goal of life. So to remind us these aspects that yoga is the ultimate goal of life, this pastimes, one after another, short little pastimes of 9th canto is going to give us that clear understanding. So, Mahajano in Gatastapanta. So we heard in that there are 12 Mahajanas in this universe who guide society, human society across different planetary systems. So these Mahajanas, they also, if you see, Srimad Bhagavatam is filled with Mahajanas. Of course, they enumerated 12 there, but if you see, even we heard the past time about Satyavrata Maharaj. Satyavrata Maharaj himself is a Mahajana. So by learning the pastimes of all the devotees from Srimad Bhagavatam, we're going to progress spiritually. So the dynasties of sons of Manu are described in this verse. This is a beautiful chapter where we will go through where the stories of the sons of Vaivasvata Manu, who himself is actually previously in his previous life he was protected by Lord Matsya Avatar. We heard in previous sessions. So he actually took birth to Vivaswan, the sun god, and Vaivasvata, he became Vaivasvata Manu. So Vaivasvata Manu, which is he desiring his sons, he actually did some austerities that we'll be discussing. So there are some, this is today's first 15 verses that we're going to discuss is a pure storyline, and it starts with the stories of Prushadra and Kavi among the 10 sons that he has achieved, given birth to. So we will discuss the stories of Prashradha and Kavi. So what happens is, when his son Sujumna had thus gone to the forest to accept the order of Vanaprastha, Sujumna, who actually went through, who took birth as a Ila, initially as a woman, he actually later became Sujumna with the request of Vaivasvata. His spiritual master, Vasishta, has prayed to the Supreme Lord, and he later got a benediction to become a man. Now, Sujumna went to a forest, and again, because of some background story, he became, by the arrangement of providence, he became woman again. And again, the woman, actually, he got a benediction again with the mercy of his spiritual master, Vasishta, to become a man, but not a man completely, but actually 1 month he's going to be a woman, and another month he can become a man and rule the kingdom. So he ruled like that, and ultimately what happened, what we heard from Sundaracala Prabhuji, ultimately what we have to learn is we are not supposed, I mean, ultimately we are by constitutional position servant of Lord Krishna. We're devotee of Lord Krishna. That is our identity. It is being a man or a woman is not our identity. And we should, by identifying ourselves in these temporary designations, we will end up having material bodies. So that is what the lesson we learned from Sundaracala Prabhuji yesterday. So that being said, now Sujumna, once he became old, he actually, not really old, actually he still has some energy to rule, but still the olden Vedic culture was in such a way that they take voluntary retirement despite as a gesture of detachment. They do it to actually also teach the next generations. They are Rajarshis. So when Sujumna left, even Vaivasvata Manu, who is still ruling the whole universe, being in the position of a Manu, he was lamenting because his son, he was expecting his son to continue the ruling, but because of this, he had to perform austerities, which is what is discussed here. Thereafter, when his son Sujumna had gone to the forest to accept the order of Vanaprastha, Vaivasvata Manu, who is also called Shraddha Deva, being desirous of getting more sons, performed severe austerities on the bank of Yamuna for 100 years. And what happened? Then, because of his desire for sons, the Manu known as Shraddha Deva worshipped the Supreme Lord. He didn't go for worshipping demigods. He worshipped directly Supreme Lord. That is why he's a Mahajan. So he's showing us the path. Even if you have some material desire, this is the proper process. The personality of God is the Lord of demigods. Thus he got 10 sons exactly like himself. Among them all, Ikshvaku was the eldest. Among these, in the third verse, it will describe Prashradra, who is one of the sons of Vaivasvatamanu. He took a vow to protect cows. And why is doing that? Because he is trying to follow his guru's order, Vasishtha's order. He would stand all night with a sword in hand to protect the cows from ferocious animals like tigers, lions, like that. And it is described Virasana Vrata. And very interesting, actually, Prashradra has no descendants. The reason explained is that because he would stay, actually, because he's still young. That is one reason. Another reason is, the reason he explained is, Virasana Vrata means he would stay awake all night with a sword in his hand, and Yatta means with attention. So this is very significant. Why he is trying to do cow protection with very attentively. That is what is described here. Usually, Kshatriyas, they are ruling the kingdom, and they are doing Prajaraksha. They are protecting the the living entities of the kingdom, and those living entities include cows also and all animals also. So kings used to depute their own sons to take care of prajas, including animals. That you can witness from this. Goraksha is very important activity that a king, a saintly king, is supposed to do. A righteous king is supposed to do. And usually, Virasana, it is mentioned that Prashraddha is sitting in a Virasana. It is, in the olden days, people who guard farms from wild pigs who come and destroy the farm yield. They used to protect their goats, the cows from the ferocious animals. They used to guard by sitting in the elevated thatched roof that is actually very highly elevated, so that they can have a perfect view of the whole vicinity. And now it is standing on a bamboo pillars. And they sit in an asana where it is explained that a pose where one sits on by bending his knees on the soles of his own feet. That's how they sit. And it is very heroic asana, and it is going to keep us healthy. And I have seen at least many devotees sitting in this Virasana posture. Example, His Grace Harinam Kirtan Prabhu also sits in this posture sometimes in our classes. And His Grace Prem Dham Prabhu also sits like that. And in the fourth verse, actually, Prabhupada gives very important insight here. Because Prashraddha was engaged in this way, it is to be understood that he had no dynasty later. That means he is unmarried. He was further understood. We can further understand from this vow accepted by Prashraddha how essential it is to protect the cows. Some sons of Kshatriya would take this vow to protect the cows from ferocious animals even at night. But what then is to be said of sending cows to slaughterhouses? That is the most simple activity in human society. Very unfortunate. The current human society even blames cows that they are reason for greenhouse emissions. You see, they say because they pass the stool, which is a cause of methane gas emissions, and it is causing global warming. That's what these demonic scientists claim. And they are blaming not the cars, not the industries, but they are blaming cows for the reason for the greenhouse emissions. Now, you see the hypocrisy of demonic human beings. And there in New Mexico, for example, there were so many cows um, which were actually what do we call that? There is something called forever chemicals. That means Teflon, all these chemicals that they have invented, humans have invented, they end up polluting the water over the last many years. And this drinking water ended up being in the they happen to be discovered in the bodies and the blood samples of the cattle. And now they are so much scared that this poison could further harm human beings. Now they have euthanized, killed all these animals in big farms across the US, wherever they identified this contaminant. How dangerously people simply go and kill cows who are like mothers who have been feeding the human society. And there are many such incidents across the US that you can see that cows were slaughtered, were killed in a mass because of this forever chemical contamination, which is introduced by human itself, greed of the human. And so now, contrarily, if you see, Prashraddha was trying to protect the cows. And the stories of Prashraddha and Kavi continued, fourth verse, where uh, Prashraddha accidentally, what happens is once a tiger entered the cowshed at night, and the cows scattered here and there. And the tiger seized a cow who screamed in distress because of that. When Prashraddha followed the sound in the darkness, it is described, Bhitasta Bhabramur Raje. They actually scattered from cowshed and they started spreading even towards the farmland. They came out of the shed because they are scared of the tiger and they came into the farm field. Usually cows don't do that. And then all the cows which were lying down got scattered here and there. Now what happened? In the fifth and sixth verse, it is described when a very strong tiger seized a cow, the cow screamed in distress and fear. Prashraddha, hearing the screaming, immediately followed the sound and he took up his sword. But because the stars were covered by the clouds, it is mentioned, Nishi Ajanan Palinodu Gane. Pralinodu Gane Nishi Ajanan. That is what it is mentioned. That means because of invisibility, because the clouds were taken over, what is indirectly described here, that it is actually stars that are covered, the luminary, the light that used to come from the natural nighttime, this is from the stars illumination. That light got covered by the rainy clouds, it is described. Indirectly, it is described. And he mistook for the tiger, and he cut off the cow's head with a great force using his sword. And what happened? In the next verse, it is described, seventh verse and eighth verse we just discussed. The tiger's ear had been cut off in the seventh verse with the edge of the sword, and the tiger was very afraid and it fled from that place, while bleeding on the street. So while he is trying to kill, his intent was to kill the tiger. He mistook cow and he he mistook cow as a tiger, and he ended up chopping the head of the cow instead of tiger. While he was doing that, even the ear of a tiger was injured, and because of that, he got scared and ran away from that place. So after that, it is described in the 8th verse, Vasishta curses Prashraddha. In the morning, when Prashraddha saw that he had killed the cow, he was very unhappy, although this sin was unintentional. Akaramataha. Vasishta cursed Prashraddha to take birth as a Shudra in next life. And Prashradha accepted the curse with the folded hands, and controlling his senses, he took the vow of brahmacharya. So Prashradha, it is described first, it is described that Prashradha was very unhappy in the morning to witness that he killed a cow. He lamented. Yustanam Nishi means when night has passed, that's when he discovered the incident. And it is described in the purport of 8th verse. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakurji is saying, the Guru cursed him, though he killed the cow unintentionally. He did not give instructions on atonement. Then we face some difficulty because of some accidental mistake. The Guru should be kind enough to be approachable and give a solution if at all there is some solution. But instead of giving such atonement to come out of such reaction of that incident, what did Vasishtha do? He got angry and he cursed him because his intelligence, it is described, his intelligence of Vasishtha Muni had disappeared. This is because actions of a family priest, someone who is in priestly duty, who is expecting a salary from the kingdom, from the king, are subject to great ignorance. That's what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakurji is explaining. And Vishwarupa, also similar incident where demigods, it is described where Vishwarupa was also, a similar incident where he describes in Srimad Bhagavatam 6.7.36. Those who are detached maintain themselves honestly by collecting grains left in the harvesting field or left in the grain market floor. O rulers, how can I take up the condemned profession of a priest which gives joys only to the foolish? This is the statement he gives when he was requested to become a priest for the demigods. Demigods, when they came and requested Vishwarupa to become priest, this is what he replies. And here, contrarily, Vasishtha is cursed him, saying that he could not even become a fallen Kshatriya, but only a Shudra. He is cursing him, saying he's Prashradha is a Kshatriya. He is not giving a curse where he is getting a small fall down to get so that he realizes his mistake. But rather, what he's doing is asking him to become a Shudra in his country. So, yeah. And Prabhupada says Vasishtha appears to be not free from Tamoguna, the mode of ignorance. As we can see, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibramaha. That is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Well, the anger arises when we have some attachment. There is a sequence where we have attachment for some position or some salary, and then when it doesn't get fulfilled, sometimes we get anger, and then anger leads to intelligence being degraded. That is what exactly is described in the previous verse. And because of that, he ended up cursing in anger. And as you can see in the 10th verse, actually 10th verse we just covered, and 11th to 13th verse, it is described, Prashradha was fixed in one-pointed devotion. Ekantitvam gato bhaktya, was fixed in one-pointed devotion. It is not that he's trying to worship some so-and-so Lord, some so-and-so Babaji, some so-and-so as the Supreme Lord. He is exclusively worshipping. Ekantitvam gato bhaktya. This Prashradha, when he received the curse from his spiritual master, as if it is a mercy, as if it is a Mahaprasad. He is such a humble devotee. After that, what did he do? He did one-pointed devotion to Supreme Lord. He surrendered to Supreme Lord. So this is Chaitya Guru, who is the Supreme Lord within and without. So Supreme Lord as a super soul is inspiring him. Now you surrender to me. Okay, the Vasishtha, who is supposed to be the guru with outside with presentation of Supreme Super Soul, he failed him. Now Supreme Lord is making sure that Raksha is not taken out on his devotee. He is giving inspiration from inside, and he is doing Ekantittam Tato. Yeah, he was friendly, Surut, and he's equal. Prashrudha was equal, Samaha to all the beings, and he is detached, Mukta Sangaha. When we see the descriptions of wonderful devotees, we should put effort in understanding their good qualities, glorifying their good qualities. See how wonderful it is described. He is Suhrit, Samaha, and detached, Vimukta Sangaha. Oh, my friend has um, is in a great position and he's supposed to help me out. He's not helping out. He's not like that. He is those best friend of everybody. He is Vimukta Sangha. He is detached. He is not expecting anything from anyone. He is friend to everyone. He is peaceful, Shantatma. He is self-controlled, Samyata. He doesn't defend unnecessarily, even if somebody blames. The devotee doesn't take effort in unnecessarily defending himself. That is the characteristic of a pure devotee. Unless, if it is a personal blame, he doesn't take it so seriously. So, independent of anyone's charity. Because if some here Prashad is described to be independent of any, he's not even going for requesting for people to give him charity. When a person doesn't depend on charity, aparigraha, what happens is he can focus without any attachments or bindings or obligations of society, subsisting on whatever comes on its own accord. This is described even Bhagavad Gita also. Whatever comes on its own accord by Supreme Lord's mercy. And he is satisfied with the knowledge. Jnana Truptaha. This is jnana about the Bhakti Yoga. He is happy with whatever the little jnana that he received in the Bhakti Yoga process. Does he is not trying to go and attend some other classes where he understands tries to Ashtanga Yoga, where Shat Chakra Yoga. He's not trying to go and attend Karma Mimamsa, all these classes. He is happy with the Bhakti Yoga knowledge. Does he travel all over the earth? As if dumb, blind and deaf. Jada Andha, Bhavira Krutihi, absorbed in pure. That is what is described. So the last verse, as you can see, 4th and 15th verses, 14th verse, let's say, it is described this saintly Prashradha once saw a forest fire and burned himself in the forest fire, attaining Krishna in the spiritual world. It is described. Bhakti destroys karma. Although Prashradha, due to his karma, was cursed to take his next birth as Shudra, he avoided that terrible consequence and entered the spiritual world by performing bhakti unto the Lord Krishna. So, what the lesson we get from here is, when we do bhakti, we are not going to get any, not that devotee will take advantage, but devotee is protected from karmic reactions. Even if unduly somebody tries to impose, causes trouble also, still devotee is protected at all times. Name bhaktyam pranashyati, as Krishna promised to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Kaunteya pratijanehi, please declare to everyone boldly. Name bhakta pranashyati, my devotee never perishes. This is the proof. And as you can see, 15th verse talks about being reluctant to accept material enjoyment. Manu's youngest son, whose name was Kavi, this is second son of Vaivaswata Manu, who gave up the kingdom before attaining full youth. He was in Kaumara age only. Kaishora Vayaha, not Kaumara, Kaishora Vayaha, probably between 11 and 14 or 15. He was so young and he gave up the kingdom. He went to forest, accompanied with his friends. See how glorious even his friend circle is. With his friends, he went to forest, always thinking of self-effulgence, supreme person of Godhead within the core of his heart. Does he attain perfection? So we heard about glorious, two wonderful sons of uh, Vaivaswata Manu. Now in the next session, we will hear more about the other sons. That is it for today, dear devotees. Thank you so much for taking part in today's Srimad Bhagavatam class and giving me an opportunity. And thank you, Sundaracala Prabhuji, for giving me permission to give today's class. Hare Krishna, Vandara Srimad Bhagavatam Gita, Srila Prabhupada Gita.
Hare Krishna, Gaur Shri Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.